Tensions on Israel's northern border have erupted into an intensified conflict with Hezbollah. In the past 48 hours, the IDF have launched a series of intense airstrikes on over 1,600 Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon, with officials estimating that Hezbollah has allegedly been taken 20 years backwards in their military capabilities. Israel named the operation Northern Arrows, with a recent assassination strike of a top Hezbollah military leader in the capital of Beirut. Hezbollah retaliated throughout the day with over 100 rockets launched into Israeli towns, including Kiryat Shmona, the Carmel, and south of Haifa. Over the past 2 days, the IDF struck an abundance of Hezbollah targets across southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley as part of Operation Northern Arrows, in the largest attack on Hezbollah since the Second Lebanon War in 2006. The strikes, according to Israeli military sources, targeted Hezbollah's command posts, rocket launchers, and other military infrastructure. The IDF says that Hezbollah has been using civilian homes to store weapons, turning southern Lebanon into a battleground. The IDF released footage of these strikes showing buildings engulfed in flames following secondary explosions caused by Hezbollah munitions, which were hidden in the civilian areas. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari of the IDF emphasized that these blasts were due to Hezbollah's deliberate placement of weaponry in residential neighborhoods, a tactic Israel says puts innocent civilians in harm's way.
Let me be clear. Hezbollah is responsible for this situation. This is Hezbollah's plan to turn southern Lebanon into a battlefield for its attacks on Israel. We cannot accept terrorist groups storing weapons inside people's homes, using them to fire at other civilian communities. The international community must condemn Hezbollah's grave violation of international law and actions that endanger civilians on both sides of the border.
The IDF's goal is to dismantle Hezbollah's military ability to strike Israel and to bring the residents of Israel's north back to their homes. And Israel seems to be all in.
אנחנו בעצם לוקחים כאן תשתיות לחימה שחיזבאללה בנה במשך 20 שנה. הדבר הזה הוא דבר משמעותי מאוד. אנחנו תוקפים מטרות, מכינים את השלבים הבאים, תכף אני אפרט בעניין הזה. בסוף הכל צריך להתכוונן לתכלית שאנחנו יוצרים תנאים להחזיר את תושבי הצפון לבתים.
Hezbollah retaliated swiftly, firing dozens of missiles at Israeli targets, including a military base in northern Israel and strikes in the city of Kiryat Shmona. Sirens have been blaring across Israel's northern regions, including Haifa, and for the first time since October 7th, parts of Judea and Samaria too, as Hezbollah rocket fire from Lebanon continues. Casualties on both sides have mounted, with Lebanese authorities reporting over 500 dead in the last 48 hours, making it Lebanon's deadliest period in decades. The situation escalated after Hezbollah continuously fired missiles at Israel following the Hamas attack and murder and massacre on October 7th. What began as sporadic cross-border fire has now transformed into sustained military exchanges. Tens of thousands of civilians have been evacuated from the border areas on both sides, with no sign of immediate de-escalation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent out a clear message to the people of Lebanon. He urged Lebanon to reconsider its tolerance of Hezbollah's presence, warning of further consequences.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens. To defend our people against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out those weapons. Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously.
Hezbollah, however, denies placing military infrastructure near civilian areas. The group warned that further Israeli airstrikes will be met with increased missile attacks on Israel. Meanwhile, international efforts to de-escalate the situation have so far made little progress, and the United Nations has called for restraint on both sides. The Iranian president has accused Israel of escalating the Middle East conflict and called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon and in Gaza. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has accused Israel of seeking regional escalation to drag the Middle East into a full-blown war by provoking Iran to join the nearly year-long conflict between Israel and the Tehran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. He warned that the consequences could be irreversible. Pezeshkian spoke to the journalists after arriving in New York for the UN General Assembly, while Israel and Hezbollah exchanged intense fire on the border. When asked if Iran would join the battle between Israel and Lebanon, he responded, quote, "We will defend any group that is defending its right and itself," but did not elaborate further. In his address at the Summit of the Future, Pezeshkian called for an immediate ceasefire, accused Israel of genocide, and said the world would not have peace under the current situation.
پایان اشغالگری، توقف آپارتاید در فلسطین و آتش بس فوری در غزه پیش نیاز توسعه و صلح جهانی است.
And joining me now to discuss the latest developments and the operation in Lebanon is Lieutenant Colonel in Reserves Gidi Harari, head of Sha'ar Yeshuv's emergency squad. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
So we're seeing a serious escalation in the fire between Israel and Hezbollah, with so many Israeli strikes on Hezbollah targets in the last 48 hours. In your opinion, was this escalation inevitable?
There is no doubt that the escalation was inevitable. We have reached the time that we cannot bear it anymore, the shooting on the Galil and the south of the Galil, and we need to do something in order to change the strategy and to pressure Hezbollah in order to reach some kind of agreement or ceasefire. So this is why this is the right time to do this. It could have been done earlier, but there is no doubt that it should be done.
Earlier, Israel was engaged in a war in Gaza and still is. Now, the IDF accused Hezbollah of using civilian homes to store weapons and launch attacks. We saw the videos. How does this use of human shields affect the rules of engagement for Israel in this conflict?
It affects very much because we, as a legitimate country and trying to be as moral as much as moral, we don't want to hit houses where civilians are living there, although we know that there are weapons in those houses. So every time we are sending them messages to leave the houses before we attack. So of course they are leaving the houses, but the weapons remains there, either the rockets or launchers of rockets or drones or whatever, mortars. They cannot take it with them, so they are losing their homes.
Now, Israel launched airstrikes on approximately 1,600 Hezbollah targets. We're hearing that possibly 50% of Hezbollah's rocket launching abilities were destroyed. Are these strikes likely to succeed in completely neutralizing the threat posed to Israel by Hezbollah?
First of all, the IDF spokesman said that he doesn't know where from came this 50% number, but it's not true. But there is no doubt that we have hit a great part of the weapons, but not 50%. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's very important. It's very important. But this is not what will stop the war. This is not enough in order to stop the war.
Mm-hmm. Now, Hezbollah claimed it will retaliate further if Israeli strikes continue. What can we expect in terms of their next move? What do you think are the risks for the Israeli public?
We should expect the worst. I mean the worst by saying that the Israeli public should be ready in Haifa and in Hadera and in Tel Aviv, that they will strike or try to strike these areas. But we are in a state of war, and we need to change the situation strategically. And to change this situation, we need to hit them very hard, very strong, very quickly, in order to finish it as quickly as possible. And it means that we, in south of Israel, in all of Israel, we should be ready to and should understand that we might get hit too. And there's nothing new in it. We're talking about it for years.
How likely is it that this could develop into a full-scale war with Israeli boots on the ground?
Even Israeli boots on the ground, it doesn't mean that it's full-scale war. Because we might have to do some ground maneuver in the south of Lebanon, but it doesn't mean that there is a total war just because of this maneuver. Me personally, I hope that we will not need to do it, because of course there will be injuries and etc., etc. But if this will be the step that we will need to take in order to finish this war, we'll take it. I think that we're strong enough, and we should take it if it's needed.
Gidi Harari, thank you very much.
Thank you.
As tensions in the north continue to escalate, airlines have yet again suspended flights to and from Israel. ILTV's Ariel Lahiani is at Ben Gurion Airport now with more.
Yes, thank you, Sivan. So as Israel has stepped up its war against Hezbollah, many airlines have suspended their flights to and from Israel, citing escalating tensions within the region. Now, among the airlines with cancelled flights are British Airways and Wizz Air, who've just cancelled their flights for today, but also Lufthansa Group has suspended their flights until the 15th of October. Now, this is highly unsurprising. This is very much to be expected. We have seen this happen time and time again. We have seen airlines suspend and resume flights to and from Israel since the beginning of the war on October 7th. And this has continued to occur as war has waged on and as tensions in the north have continued to escalate. So this is all very much unsurprising, and we hope to see flights resuming as usual within the coming days. But of course, this makes travelling to and from Israel all the little bit harder.
Thank you, Ariella. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pushed off his trip to New York amid the security situation, despite the need for public diplomacy at this time. More from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has postponed his flight to New York for the United Nations General Assembly amid the launch of Operation Northern Arrows. Instead of departing Tuesday evening, he will now take off Wednesday at midnight, arriving on Thursday. Netanyahu's speech at the UN is set for Friday, and he is expected to return to Israel on Shabbat, despite backlash from some Orthodox members of his coalition. The Prime Minister will fly on the wings of Zion Plane. The decision to delay the flight by just one day, rather than cancel the trip, came after a 4-hour security cabinet meeting on Monday night. During the meeting, ministers urged Netanyahu to attend, emphasizing the importance of public diplomacy at this crucial time. However, the trip could still be canceled if the security situation worsens. Israeli media has reported that if Netanyahu cancels, Foreign Minister Israel Katz is expected to attend in his place, delivering a speech during the Foreign Minister segment early next week.
Nearly a year has passed since the tragic events of October 7th, yet the pain endures. We invite you to register for our virtual memorial event with Israel Bonds, where we will remember the innocent lives lost and honor the resilience of our people. Among the speakers will be Israeli President Isaac Herzog. He will share special remarks on this solemn day. This event is free and open to all. Register via Israel Bonds to get access to the event. Click on the QR code on the side of the screen. And in Judea and Samaria, the IDF was active overnight despite incoming rockets confiscating weapons and arresting terrorists. More from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Despite the ongoing rocket attacks between Hezbollah and Israel overnight, the IDF conducted an operation in the Arab part of Hebron. The Judea Brigade, Israel Police, civil administration, and additional soldiers worked together to seize 4 machines used for manufacturing weapons, as well as several weapons themselves. In a separate operation in Anata, with assistance from the Shin Bet, soldiers arrested a wanted terrorist and seized approximately 100,000 shekels in terror funds. Additionally, several wanted terrorists were apprehended during operations in Al-Mughayir, the Bekaa Valley, Bethlehem, Tekoa, and Azaria, where weapons and ammunition were also confiscated. Those arrested have been transferred for interrogation. There were no casualties among IDF troops.
Tensions between Israel and Iran continue to rise after recent allegations of an Israeli covert operation on Iranian soil. Here's the latest on this. A presenter from an Iranian Revolutionary Guards affiliated channel has claimed that Israel carried out an assassination and stole classified documents inside Iran. Vahid Hadab, quoting Iranian intelligence, stated that Israel targeted an unknown figure last month, fueling speculation about Iranian retaliation. The timing of the alleged assassination follows the July killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. This comes alongside the recent explosions of communication devices in Lebanon, which included the wounding of Iran's ambassador in Beirut. On Sunday, Iran's Revolutionary Guards announced the dismantling of a network of 12 Israeli agents operating across 6 provinces within Iran. They say the network was allegedly aimed at destabilizing Iranian national security. With these new allegations, the possibility of further escalation between Israel and Iran remains a concern. Given Israel's heavy bombardment of Hezbollah targets in Lebanon this week, Iran will likely have to decide if and how to join and fight along their proxy, Hezbollah in Lebanon. And as we near 1 year since the beginning of the war, we must not forget the wonderful medical service providers who work tirelessly to save lives. United Hatzalah hosted an event honoring the women at the heart of Israel's emergency medical services. ILTV's Ariel Lahiani has more.
In an unprecedented gathering of over 1,000 female medical volunteers, United Hatzalah hosted a landmark event celebrating women at the heart of Israel's emergency medical services. This historic evening honored their life-saving work on the front lines, including the heroic efforts during the October 7th attacks. From doctors to midwives, EMTs to paramedics, these women represent Israel's diverse communities, united by a single mission: to save lives. This special event also marked the dedication of the Adele and Joel Sandberg Women's Unit, Israel's first all-female emergency medical response team, generously supported by Sheryl Sandberg. Since its inception, this groundbreaking unit, comprised of 1,763 female volunteers, has handled over 72,000 emergency calls, prioritizing sensitive cases like childbirth to provide patients with comfort and privacy. Celebrating the courage and dedication of these Wonder Women, acclaimed singer Hanan Ben-Ari performed in their honor, marking this as not just an event, but a tribute to the heroic work of these lifesavers. With the continued support of United Hatzalah, the Sandberg Women's Unit is on track to double in size by 2025, ensuring that women play an even greater role in saving lives across Israel. Founder and president of United Hatzalah, Eli Beer, said, "The courage and skill of these volunteers, both in times of routine and in times of war, are a true testament to the impact they have on our society. We are forever grateful."
In a world full of stories, whose voice will you trust? At ILTV, we deliver the truth from the heart of Israel and bring you the latest from Israel with integrity and passion. Join a community that believes in the strength and resilience of Israel. Your support means reliable, honest news direct from the source. Subscribe now. Be part of the story. Be part of Israel.
ILTV correspondent Emily Schrader was in Washington, D.C. last week for the Israeli-American Council Conference, one of the largest in the Jewish world. Let's see who she met.
Emily Schrader here for ILTV. We are here in Washington, D.C. at the Israeli-American Council's annual conference, and it's been an incredible event so far. We heard from Douglas Murray. We heard from former President Trump, of course, who emphasized the importance of the U.S.-Israel relationship and defending the Jewish and democratic state of Israel. We also heard from other notable figures such as Representative Elise Stefanik, who is leading the charge against the anti-Semitism that we see on college campuses across the United States, and of course from other notable figures in Israeli society. We took a minute to speak to a few of the attendees and the speakers here in Washington, D.C. Let's take a look at what they had to say about this conference. What is the importance of being here, having a conference like this, and having a display of thousands of people from Israel and here showing solidarity for the state of Israel?
You just said it, showing solidarity. I think that the people of Israel need it, and Jewish communities in the United States, they need our solidarity. Why? Because as we all know, we are still on ongoing war in Israel, in the Upper Galilee, in the north, of course, in Gaza Strip, and in Judea and Samaria as well. And here, the Jewish communities are also under attack. So we all, and I'm always saying it, we are one nation. If we will be united, we will defeat any enemy.
I mean, especially I think for Israelis, they've seen what's happening on American college campuses, they've seen protests on the streets, so it's so important to show that Americans actually do stand with Israel across religious and cultural lines, that Israel is not alone, and the majority of Americans, when it matters, still stand with Israel.
Well, one thing we learned on October 7th is that we are only as strong as we are as a Jewish people if we can work together and be united as one. And unfortunately, when we look to our left and our right on October 8th, the friends that we thought were going to be there weren't there, many of them. And so coming together as a Jewish community to show our unity, to show our strength, to show that here, almost a year later, we are standing strong, we are resilient, we're supporting a strong U.S.-Israel relationship, we're demanding the return of our hostages, is important for us as a community and important for the world to hear our message.
First of all, it's to keep strengthening the relationship between Israelis and American Jewry for itself. As a nation, as one people, we need to understand that the American Jewish community has the real presence of Israelis.
I am here to stand with the Jewish and Israeli community. You know, my Israeli and Jewish friends are not safe in Sweden or Vienna. They're not safe in